respect. So I'll give it over to Shane.
Okay lads, just before I start I just want to pose a challenge to everyone standing here in the room today. If there's one thing that you take from my talk, please spread it outside these four walls and around the conversation in mental health, okay? We're all awake? Yeah. Perfect, excellent. Okay, so just give you a little context. I grew up in Portmarnock in the north side of Dublin, and it was here where I attended my local primary school. And straight away I was cast into every single sport, Gaelic, soccer, hurling, swimming, you name it. And added to that, you know, I was relatively talented at anything I threw my hand at, and this, you know, straight away put me up on a pedestal, this limelight figure that people see me up on. And you'll hear me harp on about this throughout my story. That was a keynote kind of thing from very, very early on when I started out. So as I said, I attended my local primary school, and you know, one thing about this pedestal-like figure was when I was attending the school sports day. I was here when I actually achieved Sports Boy of the Year 4 years in a row, a record that still stands today in the school. You know, not such a big deal now, but it was a big deal around that time. And again, this limelight figure grew even bigger, and people see me as this untouchable figure. And it brought me to the end of 6th class, where, granted, in a smaller context, my Dublin career started. It was where I played in Easter tournaments representing North Dublin. It was North Dublin versus South versus West. And I was the only one to actually represent North Dublin from my area. So again, this pedestal-like figure was brought even bigger. Added to that, I actually captained the team, and we went ahead and won it. So you can imagine I was going back into school on Monday morning, and the lads asked me, you know, what did you do the weekend? I was like, you know, I just represented Dublin. We just went ahead and won the Easter tournament. So you can imagine what everyone was thinking about me around that stage. And it brought me then into the transition into secondary school. As you all know, it's, you know, quite a difficult transition going from primary to secondary. There's a lot of things that, you know, a lot of changes in your life, but for me it seemed, you know, seamless. Just because of my kind of, you know, involvement in sports, and I was comfortable with many, many friends. I had a big circle of friends, which made it that bit easier coming into secondary school. So I continued along the trend of playing Gaelic soccer and hurling, and you know, it brought me into 1st, 2nd and 3rd year, continuing on, you know, numerous Player of the Year accolades, and this limelight figure kept on growing and growing and growing. You know, people thought I was this untouchable figure, that, you know, I was living the idyllic life, and probably around that time it was. I continued along my trend into the Dublin development teams, involved in 13s, 14s, 15s, right the way up. And it would have brought me to the middle of 4th year, where I whittled it down to Gaelic and soccer. I was playing soccer for Malloy United in the DDSL Premier, and I was playing obviously Gaelic football for Dublin and my club neighbour Note. And it was the middle of 4th year where I had to make a decision. And inevitably I went ahead and chose Gaelic football. And it was here where I met a man who was very, very pivotal in my life today, in the shape of Desi Farrell. Those of you who don't know who Desi Farrell is, he's the former CEO of the Gaelic Players Association, and he was also the man who gave me a chance in my first real start from a Dublin career in Dublin minor football. So it was the middle of 4th year, as I said, 1st year of Dublin minor football I was playing, and it was January, and we set out our stall for the year. The inevitable goal was to reach the All-Ireland final and go ahead and achieve that. We did actually reach the All-Ireland final in September, but unfortunately we lost out to a last-minute Tipperary goal. You know, I was hugely disappointed, but for me, you know, granted it was disappointing at the time, but for me and a couple of the other lads, we had a chance to right that wrong the following year, which would have been my Dublin 2nd year in Dublin minor football. And it was the middle of 5th year, January, and it would have then started what I didn't know then, what I know now was depression. It started off very, very sporadically. I had a difficult month that turned into difficult weeks, difficult days, but I didn't quite know what it was. So I was so not even thinking, I thought it was hormones. So I just kept on continuing along the trend of playing Gaelic football. And I'm sure all of you know, I'm sure all of you play some sport in some shape or form, or any physical exercise. The happy endorphins that you release after exercise. I was training 6, 7, 8 times a week, and you know, that was my crutch, my medication to kind of keep me going. I felt like I couldn't say anything to anyone because, as I said, I was seeing this pedestal-like figure, this limelight figure that was living this idyllic life. So I continued along this trend, and again our goal was to reach the All-Ireland final. We were lucky enough to do that in September time, where we played Meath in the All-Ireland final, and we went ahead and right the wrong with the previous year where we defeated Meath in the final. And little did people know, when I was walking up the Hogan Stand steps in front of 80,000 people, you know, I was 6 months through my journey through depression, but yet they were seeing this figure up in Hogan Stand living the idyllic life. Little did they know what was going on for me in my life at that particular stage. But I kept it within myself, I put up a poker face, and I kept continuing along the trend of playing football as my crutch, my medication. Came to 6th year then, my final year in school, And it was November time where I received a call from Michael Deegan, who was part of Jim Gavin's management team at the time. I just turned 18 years of age, and Nick had rang me to say Jim Gavin wants you up with the Dublin senior footballers come January time. And here's me thinking, you know, I'm 18 years of age, and come January I'm sitting in the dressing room with Stephen Cluxton, Bernard Rowe and Paul Flynn, the lads I idolised. And at 18 years of age, still in school, you know, I was training at 6 o'clock in the morning, and the lad's gone off. Stephen Cluxton, who's a teacher, I was wearing my school uniform just like you right here, and he was like, Jesus Christ, like, you know, how young was I to represent Dublin? And again, this pedestal-like figure, this limelight figure grew even bigger. And little did people know, come that January 2013, I was a year through ever worsening depression. I didn't know what to do. My only outlet was Gaelic football, so I continued along that trend. My leaving cert was obviously coming up in that June, and I got that over and done with, and I could solely focus on the football on that particular stage, which was obviously the championship football. Again, our aim was to win the All-Ireland final in that September time. We reached the All-Ireland final yet again, and this time with the senior footballers obviously, and we played Meath in a very, very tight game, which we actually came out on top and managed to win the All-Ireland. Yet again, just a year after I won my first All-Ireland minor title, I'm now lifting the Sam Maguire in front of 80,000 people yet again up the Hogan Stand steps at 18 years of age, lifting the Sam Maguire, and little did people know what was going on in my life. It was a year and a half through my journey through depression at this particular stage. Coinciding with that, just a week after winning the All-Ireland, it was the first time I thought of ending my life. It was my only outlet, it was the only thing I could see. I was suffering every single day, and you know, people were seeing me living this idyllic life, and I was crumbling inside. I was putting up that poker face, I was putting up that mask, and little did people know I wanted no part of this world anymore. But you know, as I did for the last year and a half, I continued along the trend of playing football, and that was my outlet, that was my crutch, my medication. It came to be January 2014 where it really came to a head for me, 2 years through my journey through depression. And I was representing the under-21 footballers in a friendly match down in Cork. And as my mum and dad do, still to this day, they travel right around the country, whether it's school, college, club football or county football. We were playing Cork down in Cork, playing them in a friendly. And unbeknownst to me, halfway through the match, my mum received a phone call off my uncle to say her dad has passed away, my grandmother has passed away. Obviously I was unaware, but at this time I was playing the match. So I finished off the match and my mum and dad follow off home. I followed in shortly after I came back in the team bus. And I met them in the kitchen at 1 o'clock in the morning. And I was thinking, you know, alarm bells start ringing for me, thinking there's something not quite right here. My mum and dad were sitting there and they greet me with the news that my granddad had passed away. Such was the numbness and lack of feeling I could attach to absolutely anything at that particular time in my life. I simply acknowledged it, I said I'm sorry to hear, and I left the room. And that was their first warning sign that, you know, there's something not quite right here. I would have been so close to my granddad, I idolised him, I looked up to him. I would have visited him every couple of weeks and he would have told me I should have scored another 10 goals or whatever it was, whatever match, and he was so clued in. So with the reaction with like that, it was difficult for them to see, you know, there's something not quite right, you know, cracks began to appear. And I started to have the conversation with myself, I need to speak up here. It was, in actual reality, it was a matter of life and death. But because of the death of my granddad, I was, you know, putting up that protection mechanism for my mother. And, you know, the couple of weeks had passed, the funeral had come and gone. And I started to have that inner dialogue yet again. I should say something to my mum and dad here. I don't know what I was going to say. The cloudiness in my head, I couldn't make sense of it. But I knew I needed to speak up because it was a matter of life and death at this particular stage. I started to build up the courage. And after, as I said, a couple of weeks had passed after my granddad's funeral. And just, unfortunately, just after the passing of my granddad, 6 weeks apart, my nanny had passed away too, both on my mum's side. So within the space of 6 weeks, my mum has lost both her mum and dad. And you know, the inner dialogue that I was having with myself was like, whatever I'm going through in my life can't even compare to what my mum was going through at this particular stage. So as I did for those previous 2 years, I shut up shop and I just said I'm absolutely fine, just for the protection of my mother and obviously my family after that. You know, under-21 football was still going on at this particular stage. And it came to a head. It was the morning of the Leinster under-21 final. We were due to play Meath down in Portlaoise. And it was where my mother met me in the sitting room with a bowl of porridge, because 19 years of age wouldn't make my own porridge apparently. But she met me in a flood of tears. And as to why I was crying, I don't know. I couldn't make sense of it. As I said, the cloudiness in my head was at an all-time high, but I couldn't make sense of it. It was the first time that she'd seen the cracks beginning to appear, and I was in a flood of tears for 2 or 3 hours. I had a match in a matter of hours, and yet I didn't know what I was going to do. My sister Mairead, my middle sister, I have three sisters. My middle sister Mairead was off on that particular day, and my mum rang her. She knew she needed to break that trend on this particular day, so she rang her and she'd asked her, will you take Shane out of the house for a couple of hours to distract him before his match? So Mairead came over and collected me, and as you do before a big Leinster final match, she brought me on a massive cliff walk up in the hills of Howth. For whatever reason, she chose that, I don't know. I spoke very little on this cliff walk. I think I spoke about 5 words, but it was known that I had that listening shoulder, that listening ear that I so deeply needed for those previous 2 years. The cliff walk had obviously come to an end, and I come back into the car, and it was as if when I closed the door, all the thoughts and feelings that I had for those previous 2 years came bubbling back in. And it was the first time I was facing up to thinking, not even football can be my escape here. And I had Desi Farrell, my under-21 manager at the time, and I push of a button away to say I can't represent Dublin tonight. I can't go out and face that crowd, such as the inner turmoil that I'm facing at this particular stage of my life. For whatever reason, I don't know why I didn't, but I didn't go through with that phone call. So I went home to get ready for a match, as I always do. I met up with the lads in the team hotel for the pre-match meal. I didn't eat anything here. I think I had a glass of water and that was it, and I was on the way. We were on the bus off to Portlaoise, and halfway through this, I had my hood up, I had my headphones on. I'm sure you can all relate to particular songs that take you to a happy place or a happy memory. I had those, a set of songs, a playlist there that brought me to a happy place, and I was playing it as loud as I could to drown out those thoughts that was going through my head at this particular stage. Halfway through this bus journey, I texted my middle sister Mairead yet again and said, look, I can't go through with this, I can't face the crowd, I can't go through with this. And she texted me back to reassure me that my family was all behind me, they're right behind me, they want to see me out on that pitch. So I continued onto the ground. We got into the dressing room and got changed. I think I had half a sup of Lucozade and that was it, and I was off out. And to this day, it was the most satisfying 60 minutes that I've ever played in my life. I was like a kid in the playground again. I didn't want that whistle to go to mark the end of the match. And inevitably it did. Fortunate enough, we were actually victorious in this particular Leinster final. And added to that, I was awarded man of the match. And yet again, I was walking up the steps to collect my award. And little did people know, 12 hours previous, I was in a flood of tears with my mother in my sitting room. And yet again, they see this idyllic figure winning the Leinster final and being awarded man of the match. They didn't have a clue. So I went back into the dressing room, I put my award into my bag, and the lads were all celebrating around me. And I went off, and I went home with my mother and father. The following day, just a week previous to the Leinster final, my mum and dad had actually booked a trip away from me for a couple of days off to see my sister Michelle, who lived over in Stockholm. And the idea behind that was that maybe I can find with my older sister Michelle a bit more than I do with anyone else in the family. And the hope from mum and dad was that I was going to tell my sister absolutely everything that was going on with me. But little did they know, I didn't know what was going on with me. I just knew I was having thoughts about my life and it was ever worsening. So I went off to Stockholm and I met my sister Michelle with the same news that I met with my mum and dad only a couple of days previous. So that trip was essentially null and void. I came back on that Sunday and it was 2 weeks out from the All-Ireland semi-final. I texted Desi Farrell to say, listen, I need to meet you tomorrow, I need to have a chat with you. I was going to tell him what was going on for me. The reason why I did that was Desi actually had previous as well with depression, and he was a previous psychiatric nurse, so I was hoping he was going to give me the answers that I didn't have. The following morning I met him in a coffee shop, Costa Coffee in Santry, about 15 minutes away from my house. And my dad had dropped me there, and I went into the coffee shop and I just broke down in tears. I was in a packed coffee shop. I was, people were having their morning breakfast, their morning teas, their morning coffees, and I was here in a flood of tears. For 45 to 50 minutes I was just crying. That 5-minute period I told Desi what was going on for me for the previous 2 years, how I was feeling. So he promised me that he'd get me the help that I so deeply needed. And he went ahead and booked a session with a psychologist that Wednesday. Bringing it back just a day previous, as I said, we were in the Under-21 Championship campaign, we're preparing for the All-Ireland semi-final. We had a training camp in DCU on that Tuesday. And we went out to DCU and my dad drove me out there, he knew what was going on for me, he didn't want me driving the car on my own. So we went out to the training camp. We trained in DCU and the train had come and gone, and we were due to have a meeting in Castlemark Hotel, just 10 minutes away from DCU. And along that period, I had a massive spike in heart rate, a massive spike in adrenaline, and what transpired next was a panic attack. My next vital memory was being woken up in St Patrick's Mental Hospital. And I don't know if any of you have seen the film Shutter Island. No one? Go see it, it's a great film. But the perception they give off in this is people in straitjackets in a mental hospital banging heads off walls in a dark, dreary room. And the uneducated self and myself, that's where I thought I was. I was greeted by two softly spoken nurses to say I was in St St Patrick's Mental Hospital, and that's where my mind took me. It was anything but. I went into the breakfast room and I met people who I'm still friends with today. They made that transition that bit easier for me the first couple of days going into that mental hospital. A couple of days after Desi came into me, and as I said, this All-Ireland semi-final that I still had in my head that I was going to play was still playing on my mind. He had said to me, look, I'm not going to put any pressure on you, but you can make the decision yourself. And as I started unravelling these thoughts, unclouding the thoughts that was going on in my head, I began to realise, you know, Desi had said to me, if you look after yourself for the next 2 or 3 months in this hospital here, you have the next 80 years of your life to look forward to. And he put it in that context, and I was thinking, he's right here. He really is right. So I'd asked him to make a press release. The press had asked me, I'd missed the All-Ireland semi-final. We defeated Cavan, and we're due to play Roscommon the All-Ireland final. I was still in hospital, and there was a press release asking, you know, where's Shane Carthy? Will you be back for the All-Ireland final? And I'd asked Desi to go public with that I was going through depression and I'm in St Patrick's receiving help. The reason I did that was that for many, many years, as I said, I was seen as this pedestal-like figure, this limelight figure that was untouchable. And you know, little did people know what was going on in my life for the previous 2 years. I wanted them to make it public that, you know, the normal Joe Soap in public can go through difficult times, as can I. So Desi had released a press release and said, look, Shane Carthy's gone through depression and he's receiving treatment in St Patrick's Mental Hospital. I spent 11 weeks there, and I'll never shy away from the fact that I had my good and bad days out there, but I was starting to, you know, build up tools, build up resources that, you know, I didn't know it was possible. You know, I started to uncloud the thought, as I said, and 11 weeks had passed in St Pat's and my integration back into society was due. Just 2 months after coming out of St Pat's, I went back into the Dublin senior setup. And just 3 months after coming out of St Pat's, I went on to DCU to study an undergraduate in sports science. And 5 years on, a lot has happened for me. I've recently graduated from that sports science degree, and I'm into my master's now in DCU at this particular stage. I've been doing talks like this right around the country for the last 3 or 4 years, and hope that, you know, maybe 1 or 2 people can take one thing that I say from this conversation and spread it outside these 4 walls. So, you know, it's been a difficult period. I still have my good and bad days, but my bad days aren't as bad as they once were. So I just hope, as I said at the top of my talk, you can take one thing from this and spread it outside these 4 walls. So I just want to thank you for listening to me today. I think we're going to open if anyone has any questions at all. Anyone at all? Don't be shy.
I'm sure there's loads of questions, but I don't want to ask.
Okay, what kind of strategies might you have now, I suppose, on a daily basis for sort of keeping yourself in an even keel?
Yeah, so as I said, it's a great question in terms of, as I said, I still have my good and bad days, but you know, the tools and resources, I always actually refer to it as my mental health toolbox. Sport was an outlet for me when I didn't know what was going on for me. That continues to be to this day. I talked about a playlist, you know, whenever I'm having a bad day, I go out for a walk or whatever it may be with a couple of my friends, and you know, stick in the playlist that brings me to a happier place. And you know, things work for me in terms of, you know, going out and chatting away to my friend and saying, listen, I'm not going through a really, really good time, you know, but, you know, confiding in your friends or family, whoever it may be, you don't have to tell them absolutely everything that was going on for you in your life. But, you know, I always find just getting stuff off my chest is a massive outlet for me, along with sport and music. So that would be, you know, my 3 top things that I rely on to this day.
Can I ask a question? What do you hope to do when you're fully qualified? What's your next career move?
So I probably should have said even the last year, you know, I wrote a blog there last year back in December, and I was approached just 6 months ago by O'Brien's Publishers, and I'm in the middle of writing a book at the minute. I've recently become an ambassador for Pieta House, and there's a couple of business ventures that we're hoping to go on. I'm studying business management in DC at this particular time, and there's a couple of business ventures that I'm probably going to go into with Pieta House to, you know, widen my horizon and continue along that trend and spreading the good word on mental health. So that'll be kind of my next year to 2 years, I would say. Yeah, so even, I've been posed a challenge in this last particular year, I'm sure that everyone in this room has not known about the Dublin's 5 in a row, and I wasn't involved this year, I've won 7 All-Irelands, and I missed out on that 5th All-Ireland. I've won under 21, 1 minor and 5 seniors, but I missed out this year, and that has posed a challenge to myself that, I've been dropped away from a team that was going for the 5 in a row and inevitably achieved it, so this last year has been difficult, but in my head, I need to be working away as hard as I can to get back into the squad in January. That's my inevitable goal, so that's where I'm at the minute.
We obviously want to go back to class. 15 minutes. So, yeah. Will you take it back upstairs? Okay.
We've loads of sports centres here, I'm sure.
Question?
Is on hear me? The best player I've played with, I would say, purely from a footballing sense, Dermot Connolly. Some things that he's done in training, and even on a big stage in Grove Park. Some of the things that you see, privately in training, I've never seen the likes of it ever before in my life. So he'd definitely be the best player I've ever played with. Yeah, 100%. I'm sharing my story in terms of I was so lucky with the resources that I had in the shape of Desi Farrell and the contacts that I have, but my abiding advice with that would be for the local sports people or whatever it may be, is confide in someone within your community or club, whatever it may be. Like my lantern there was Desi Farrell. Find that within your club, whether it's your coach, whether it's one of your parents or one of your friends, whatever it may be. But I would always say, find that one person you can confide by. I didn't tell Desi my whole story. I didn't know what it was, but I just told him I was going through a difficult time. And since then, I've built a path. Since then, the last 5 years, I still go through it today. So.
Finally, questions here.
Any tips for improving your game?
Improving your game. Coming out of injury as well. So.
Yeah, I would always say be self-critical of yourself. It's easy to have a game and pat yourself in the back, and the thing that we do with Dublin is, people probably think we're this untouchable team. We've done okay in the last 4 or 5 years. We're always self-critically, analysing ourselves and looking for things. From my personal point of view, I'm good going forward, but I can improve my defensive capabilities. So I'm always looking back and thinking of scenarios where I could have done better, and have conversations with lads around your team. I find that helps as well. Whatever position you're forward, midfield, wherever you are. For example, I'm a midfielder. I'm asking forwards, what do they do? What are the little things that they do that help to improve their game and make them a good footballer? And the same going back with the defenders. What do they do? What's the little tips and tricks that they do? So that's what I would say in terms of trying to improve your game.
Thank you. Christy.
During the depression phase, you were talking about suicide.
Last question. Did you ever contemplate suicide in your darkest days?
Yeah, so it would have been, as I said, just a week after the All-Ireland final. It was the first time I had thoughts of ending my life, and I never wanted to feel that way, but I could never get away from that thought. I did have many dark moments where, in actual reality, where I was standing at the side of the sidewalk and wanted to do, jump onto the road or jump onto a train track and stuff like that, and it was hugely difficult, but I would have said it was more suicidal ideation than actually wanting to act it out. So.
What time in your life were you at like an all-time low?
What particular time? And you'll all laugh at this, it was the week after the All-Ireland final of 2013, so 18 years of age, you can imagine. I've just won the St. Maguire, we're celebrating the whole week, and you know, the celebrations had kind of stemmed a little bit on the following Sunday, just the week after the All-Ireland, and it was the first time I sat there in my room and said, you know, I can't do this anymore. So I would say that was my deepest and darkest moment right there.
Can I ask a question? Sorry, I'll let you do it.
What advice would you give if you think somebody is going through a
I would say, you know, stripping it all back, you know, I've talked about where I've come from and what I'm doing right now, but if you think back to my personal story where I said to Desi in that coffee shop, you know, not gone through a very good time, you know, essentially the foundation of where I've rebuilt my life was talking. And as I said, you don't need to tell absolutely everyone your story. Find that one person, as I said, confide in and tell them, you know, I'm not going through a difficult time, and they'll be your lantern to go ahead and, you know, begin that journey, I would say. Yeah. So I would say my advice would be talk.
Can I just ask as well, just in general, if there's somebody that is looking maybe to talk to somebody else, did you ever get any negative response from somebody if you said, you know, I want to talk to you about something, or was your experience positive?
I would say, you know, for the 2 years that I was going through it on my own, obviously I didn't speak to anyone, and when I did speak to people eventually, I would say it was more on their side that they were kind of a bit, you know, afraid that I was saying I'm not having a great day, because as I said, it was after St. Pat's when I came back into the public, and you know, I wasn't afraid to then voice my opinion on how I felt. And I'd actually say from the other side that people are kind of like a bit standoffish. And the advice that I would give to people with that is, don't try to be the doctor or psychologist in the room, just be that listening ear, you know, ask questions and you know, don't particularly judge them for what they say. So I would have said I would have had kind of negative perceptions, and I still do, and you know, in the world of social media that I'm quite public with what I've went through, I have had those people or individuals that will be quite negative towards that, but 99 times out of 100 it's been absolutely fantastic, you know, the response to it. So
you're happy with any meaning to like your mental health?
yeah, I'm actually.
When you ask the question, because I don't want to get really hard, it's only about tattoos. What was it?
Does the tattoo have any meaning like towards mental health?
Did they have any meaning?
Yeah, it's actually, it's my whole story, so I don't know if everyone can see, but I started off with the semicolon, just here, and the meaning behind that is, semicolon represents a sentence where the author could have ended but chose not to, and in this case, the sentence is my life and I'm the author. I then went a bit crazy, even though I was crazy before. I went off and got a rose in school which represents life and death. And the bird there, I don't know if you can see, it's from the single Magic from Coldplay. As I refer to those songs, those playlists, one of the songs that I listened to that brought me to a happier time was that single from Magic from Coldplay, so that's actually off their album. The compass there is representing the philosophical meaning of I lost my way in life and navigated myself back on track. The clock here, 3:26, the time I was brought into this life. The mental health symbol right there. And the cards, I'm not an avid poker player by any means, but the meaning behind the cards is basically, I was dealt a deck of cards in life like anyone is, and good, bad or indifferent, I dealt with it like a poker player does with a poker face. And I was led along the path of life, but eventually I seen the wood from the tree, so that's
Great question.
the meaning behind it.
Sorry, one more. Did you receive any abuse on social media when the press release was released about the content? I know what it wasn't as big as it is now, but
Yeah. At the time, well, when I went into St. Pat's, I wouldn't have been in touch with the outside world. I'd actually turned off my phone completely. The only people I had contact with was my mum and dad and my three sisters who came in to visit me. But thereafter, I did, as I said, you know, I post on Instagram or Twitter or whatever it may be on my journey and certain talks that I do or whatever it may be, and I do get negative people, but I would just say, you know, as I said, the 99 times out of 100, it's all positive, and I just have to accept that. You know, I've gone public with it, and you know, taking the good with the bad, and there's more good than bad. So I'm sure you can all relate. You know, anything in life is going to be difficult. It's more of a social media age, and you just have to kind of deal with it and not let it affect you. It's just someone, you know, trolling behind a screen, and they'll never say it to your face. So.
Another question from this area over here. They said, was there any